Another way that Louis has influence over France is in the religious realm. Louis says that he wants one king, one law, one faith. The one faith comes from his policies towards the Huguenots and towards a Catholic group called the Jansenists. The Huguenots had, in the Edict of Nantes, been granted religious toleration, and this is limited. In their towns, they have complete religious freedom, but outside of the Huguenot towns, they're allowed to live, but they're not allowed to publicly evangelize and, publicly spread their religion. But now, Louis XIV revokes the Edict of Nantes. So therefore, Huguenots either have one of several choices. They can convert to Catholicism, or they can leave. And many Huguenots go to the Netherlands. Many Huguenots also find their way over to Prussia, which is, Prussia is more Protestant. And actually, this decision to, revoke the Edict of Nantes and outlaw the Huguenot religion actually has a negative effect on the French economy. Many Huguenots that are involved in different practices, different trades, have to leave, and they take with them their wealth, and they take with them their knowledge, and so this is not a good economic decision. Another religious change, in order to create that one faith, to create religious uniformity, is the opposition to the Jansenists. Now, Jansenism is a Catholic group that has these sort of Calvinist ideas about predestination. Okay, so they have these ideas that, the predestination, God's already decided this. This is like a theological debate. And the Pope and the Jesuits do not like, the Jesuits are all about free will. The Jansenists say, no, it's not about free will and making your own choices, but instead everything's predetermined. And the Pope sides with the Jesuits in this conflict, this theological debate. And so the Pope he outlaws these Jansenist ideas and says, no, free will, this is the official way that things are. And Louis XIV then acts to stop the Jansenists within France. And he actually attacks this Jansenist town, and he ensures that they are stopped. And so we see that, the one king with Louis XIV, he builds up the power of the monarchy through building Versailles, through having symbols like suns, seen through the absolute, through the divine right theory. That's how he builds up this idea of one king. One law is implemented through, having intendants that oversee his laws. Oh, and also one law is overseen by, Louis personally is in charge of these councils of state, basically these different departments that oversee finance or oversee foreign affairs or oversee these other things. So he will build up this bureaucracy in the government and oversee these councils of state. And then one faith, we see that with the opposition to the Huguenots and Jansenists. And finally, it goes without saying that Louis builds up the military. He builds a navy and expands the size of the navy, and of course he builds up his military as well. And just like the government is developing this bureaucracy, all these people that are implementing Louis' ideas and implementing his policies and overseeing the implementation of his laws, likewise, the military will be increased in size, and the military will be monitored by Louis. So there will be strict discipline within the military. There will be a hierarchy of different positions. People will move up in positions based on Louis' appointment. So not necessarily just because they're nobles, but because he will appoint people to different positions. And this guarantees that there is discipline within the military. And in order to ensure that there's enough food for the military, enough shelter for the military, there's all sorts of government ministers in charge of providing for the military. And this is an important aspect of absolutism then, is that the king has control over the military. He will be paying their salaries, giving them uniforms, giving them weapons, and giving them orders. And so this means, it's a deal. He'll pay their salaries, but in exchange, they're loyal to him. But this will be key in Louis and kings across Europe developing more power compared to the nobles. In that old feudal obligation, remember, the king and his vassals, the nobles' job was to protect the king. That was the whole basis of the feudal order. But now, the king has his own army, and so therefore the nobles are less important. And the king having his own army will allow him to increase his power and make more demands from the nobles. And the tensions between king and nobles will lead right up to 1789, right? The nobles say, no, you cannot tax us, and the king says, I want to tax you. Yeah?
Did you have this whole thing recorded, right?
Yes.
I was going to do that, but then I just thought...
Yes, it's not going to be posted. It'll take a couple days for it to get posted.
Okay, that's fine. I just have to...
Okay, perfect. So now that we talked about the military, let's talk about the wars of Louis. We'll look at two. Basically what happens is there's this coalition of countries. Louis wants to expand France to its natural borders. By natural borders, he means the Alps. By natural borders, he means the Rhine River. And so he wants to expand France to the west. To the east. To the east. To the west, there is an ocean. So this means he's going to acquire territory, and this means he's a threat to other countries. Now, the Holy Roman Empire is to the east, but the Holy Roman Empire is weak and decentralized. To the north is going to be the Dutch Republic and the Spanish Netherlands. So those are two smaller areas too, so they're going to be weak. So all of these countries, the Holy Roman Empire, the Dutch Republic, all the countries of Europe are going to feel threatened by Louis XIV. He's got the largest army, and he wants to use it to bring protection and security to France, and so therefore he wants to take over more territory. So the War of the League of Augsburg is in the late 1600s, and in this war, basically, Louis moves into territory in what is today Belgium, Spanish Netherlands. Louis had already moved into territory along the Holy Roman in the Holy Roman Empire. He had already seized, for example, Alsace-Lorraine from the Holy Roman Empire and made it part of France. And that will, of course, be big because the Germans will want that back for the next 200 years. And so, in the War of the League of Augsburg, the League of Augsburg is this league of countries that oppose Louis. And this is basically all the major powers: the Dutch, the Spanish, the Holy Roman Emperor, and other kingdoms, other principalities within the Holy Roman Empire too. Now, he is stopped. But then what happens is if you remember, the Spanish Habsburg line dies out, and I believe the year 1702. And so the Spanish Habsburg line dies out, and Charles II, or Carlos II, for the sake of remembering and keeping Charles's apart, Carlos II will be will not have any children, and so when he dies, in his will, he gives everything to Louis. And I think it's actually Louis' son that gets everything in Carlos's will. And his goal is that the Spanish territories and possessions are not broken apart. So he gives everything to Louis' son.